Hello, and welcome to another episode of Profoundly Silly Wisdom. I think I'm still doing episodes. I'm not sure what I'm doing, to be honest. I don't know. We're working it out as we go along. Anyway, so today's message basically is for people who want to enjoy life more. So in my last video, I kind of laid down the gauntlet for myself and I said, that I'm let's create a joy revolution. And I know that some people responded to that. Well, I certainly did. And I thought, oh, that's quite a bold statement, isn't it? Let's create a joy revolution in all the chaos that's going on right now. So today's message is, well, how do we actually create more joy in our lives? A lot of people are stressed right now. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. I mean, if you read the newspaper, there's plenty to keep you up at night. So how do we create more joy? And also this message will apply to people who not only want to create more joy, but also want to create something in the world, whether it's a business, whether it's, having some kind of impact in the world, whether it's great relationships, but that there's something more that you want to bring to your reality. So that's who my message is for today. And it's actually, so one of my friends asked me, she's been watching my videos, thank you very much. She asked me, do you like, who are you creating these videos for? Is it just coming out of your own questions that you're asking yourself, or are you doing them for specific people? And it's, so I sometimes tune in and ask, what does my soul want to share with people who are going to watch this at any point in time. But this one has actually come out of my own questions. So I have a morning practice and I use journaling and tarot. Those are kind of two pretty useful tools that I've been using going through this sort of transition, major life transition. You'll have to watch my first video if you want to know more about that. So it's come out of just me asking questions of my soul or my intuitive mind, if you prefer that term. So the question I asked, and before I say what question I asked, it's sort of, so I journal in the morning because I find it's helpful to kind of get my thoughts out, because it's very easy just to build up a lot of stressful thoughts. You certainly have stressful thoughts if you go through a major life transition, you quit your job and you've no idea what you're going to do next. That will bring up some stressful thoughts for you. And so it's been a useful practice for me, for mental health reasons, if anything. And so I actually was journaling about, I'm going to be honest here, my frustrations with setting up a YouTube channel. Because I was so I had this, and I still do, I'm not just faking it here. I had this enthusiasm to share my experiences with people, because I thought, I know there's so many people. It's so easy when you're going through the mill. We call it the mill, I almost swore, but I can't be bothered to bleep it out later. When you're going through a really difficult time, it's so easy to just get locked into your own world. And I just thought, but I know that there are other people going through similar experiences, and I just had this desire to share them with people. So I know that, I'm not saying YouTube is the only way you can do that, but I just felt this is something that I want to do, and I had an enthusiasm to do, but I just keep getting bogged down with it, basically. And, I have this enthusiasm, and then I have to deal with all of the technical questions of how to set it up, how to record it, and, running out of space, and, which is the best format, and just so many things. And then before you know it, you've just kind of lost all your enthusiasm for this thing. And so it was out of that kind of situation that I was just asking, how, and it was about that, but it was also just about life in general. How do I inject joy into my everyday life? There are things that I want to do, and I've been talking about this a lot in my videos about if you're facing the unknown, particularly, then, you know, how do you move through that? How do you work out what to do next? Well, it's noticing those sparks of inspiration. But, you know, it's so easy to lose those, basically. So I've had this, if you like, I'm using myself as an example here. If you're going to do a channel on authenticity, then, you know, you got to be pretty, I think it's worth being pretty honest rather than just faking it. So how do I maintain this, you know, how do I follow this inspiration without killing it? So that's what this question was for. So the answer that came through, so I work with tarot a specific way, because it's been useful to me over the last 18 months or so. And so the first card I got, which was like it's what I call the context card. It's my way of working with tarot. And basically it sort of gives me the big picture to whatever question I'm asking. And sometimes it just shows the energy behind, or sometimes the agenda behind the question. So the card I got was the Ace of Wands. I'm hoping you can see that, because I can't actually, I'm recording with my phone this time. So I can't see if you can see that or not, but hopefully you can. So the Ace of Wands, and this card, basically wands in the tarot represent sort of that creative energy, but it's that sort of catalytic energy. It's that initiation, sort of initial creativity, that spark of creativity that gets things moving. It can be spirituality as well, but I mean, that's actually the same thing, you know, just spoiler alert there. But I got it upside down, and basically, so the Ace of Wands is about, this is about inspiration flowing, new inspiration. And so the fact that I got it upside down, reverse, was just reflecting to me the frustration that I was feeling with, you know, I keep killing the inspiration with all of these, you know, problems while I, you know, to work out about how I should format my videos and all of that kind of stuff. So that reassured me that, you know, we were on the same page. We knew what we were talking about. And the main answer that I got actually was this card here, which is the Page of Pentacles. Now, Pentacles actually refer to your material life. So often to finance, could be your physical well-being, your material experience, your physical experience in life. Rather than the intellect or, you know, emotions per se. So it was interesting that I got that card. So basically, as I looked at this card, so just to remind you, so my question is, how do I inject more joy into my everyday life? You know, I have these moments of inspiration and, you know that this is the way forward for me right now. But then as I go to implement, it's just like, it gets that enthusiasm just gets bogged down, basically. So if you look at the card, I'm hoping you can see this. If not, I might have to like superimpose it on me on the video afterwards. But you've got like three areas here. So let's look at the page first, because he's like, the page represents a certain stage. So in the tarot, you've got pages, you've got knights, you've got queens, and you've got kings. And they actually represent different, so the kings and the queens and the kings, and it's nothing to do with gender, they represent sort of different focuses and different stages of development. So for example, the queens and the kings, the queens are like connectors, so communicators and networkers. So they represent that sort of leadership, really connected leadership, and the kings represent the expertise and sort of like having reached that level of expertise, like a really, really experienced person. The knights represent like the professionals, if you like, so your managers, and it doesn't have to be a job title, but people who have, you know, developed their skill in a certain area and are recognised for having done so. But pages they're kind of like your apprentices or your new sort of, So if you've like newly join an industry, you start at the page level because you don't have a lot of experience. But you're there, you know, if you think about a page, they would have been involved in all kinds of areas like they'd be like runners and gophers, you know, sort of in the creative fields. They just do a lot of different jobs, and it gives them exposure, and then they get experience, and then they choose maybe to study and develop in a particular way. And so that's what the page represents, that stage. And the sort of page here is like, they're holding up this pentacle. So, and they're holding it quite lightly. They're not sort of grabbing onto it. It's sort of resting on their hands, and they're looking upwards as if to draw in inspiration, if you like, creative inspiration. And that's exactly what the pages refer to. It's that initial stage. So if you got this, for example, in a reading where you're asking about a project, this would refer to the initial stages of the project, where you're like brainstorming, you're coming up with ideas. You know, you maybe haven't decided what your product is yet, and you're still in that kind of ideation phase. But it's that kind of flow of creative energy, but it's new. You're learning lots of things. It's a very sort of curious and, you know, in some ways playful is the word to use, because that's, you know, with creativity, particularly in that initial stage, you're not like, if you're in a brainstorming meeting, if you're going to be judging every idea that comes out of your mouth, you know, then you're going to censor yourself, and you're not going to actually, the creative energies aren't going to flow. It kind of needs to be uncensored. It needs to be free. And that's kind of like what you can see here. He's standing in this field, this verdant field, it's lovely green grass and, you know, trees and flowers and everything. And he's wearing quite a fancy hat. So he obviously isn't like doing serious graft here. He's like, this is a more playful and fun energy. And so that's what he kind of represents. And if you look here, you've got like two other areas. So you've got this big green field that looks very pleasant. And you've got like, here you've got like furrows. So some furrowed ground. So it's like, yeah, he's in this field. He's enjoying the experience of being in nature, in the big, you know, open air, and bringing through ideas. But at the same time, you know, he's not like neglecting his work. He's still got things to do, like tasks to do. And so he's like implementing those. And then in the background, you've got like the mountains, the blue mountains. Well, blue to me speaks of the throat chakra, which is about creative expression, but it's a different kind of creativity. It's the creativity of the singer who's taking to the stage, the conductor who's conducting the orchestra, the person making that presentation. It doesn't have to be a TED talk, it could be, but, you know, it could just be someone sharing their expertise, you know, someone who's really developed their ability and their knowledge. So that's what the blue, you know, communication and creativity, creative expression, if you like. It could be the athlete who's honed their, you know, sporting skills. So a different stage of creativity, if you like. And so basically what I felt this was saying to me was like, if you want to inject more joy into your life, if you want to experience more joy in your day-to-day life, then you want to maximize this, you know, which is basically being in that sort of playful and curious energy. So, you know, curiosity is a big part of that playfulness and of being creative. And if you think about it, like the furrows, what do the furrows represent in our life? So if you think about furrow type energy, it's like, it's tasks that you have to do. You know, it's the chores, you know, what a word that is. Chores. And again, you know, it's quite a small area. And if you feel like your life is just full of chores, I just don't even need to say that's a joyless life, because you just know it. You just felt it instantly. So basically, it's not saying don't, you know, attend to things that need to be attended to, but it's basically saying, you know, if you want to experience more joy, then your life cannot be filled with all of this drudgery. You know, I'm calling I'm calling these furrows here the furrows of drudgery. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but that's how it can feel to us, when we're overloaded with, I've got to cook the dinner, I've got to be at this meeting at this time, I've got to, feed the children, I've got to do this, I've got to drop them off at school, I've got to, and before you know it, it can feel like your day is just like plowing furrows. And what do you get when you feel like that? Sweaty and muddy and exhausted. So, not a joyful place, right? So that's what I feel like the message is you've got to kind of learn to minimize this kind of drudgery energy. And how do you do that? Well, it doesn't mean you ditch everything, because we do have furrows here. He's done some work, and work is not a dishonorable. This sort of work is not dishonorable, but it's actually just, maybe it's prioritizing. Maybe some of the stuff that you're doing you don't really need to do. Maybe you could delegate some of it, or maybe it doesn't have to be done to such a high standard. If I think about, coming back to the context of me asking this question of my soul, it was like, I'm killing this YouTube thing because I keep, the furrows of drudgery could be me like, watching 10 freaking YouTube videos on what I should name my YouTube video to optimize the views or subscribers or whatever, and just like, it's just like, do I really need to do that? And actually in the initial stages, maybe I'd watch one video, maybe I wouldn't, maybe I'd actually just stay in this playful phase instead of like worrying about what I should be doing and what time should I post, to optimize views, and all of these questions that you can easily get bogged down with. Maybe they don't matter in the first instance. Maybe just get used to posting videos at a regular cadence. Maybe that's a win in this scenario, because I'm at the page stage. I'm not in the mountains of challenge and professionalism. So, again, accept where you are. Don't bog yourself down with unnecessary stuff. And the other thing I would say about these joy killers, this joy killing area here, is that, so once you've kind of like offloaded, so you started to look at the stuff that you're doing and that is making you feel joyless. And maybe, I have to cook kids dinner, but, maybe they can help with the dinner if they're of a certain age, or, maybe it's worth getting some extra help, if you're both doing, if you're with a partner and you're both working, getting some extra help if you can, and looking at different ways you can minimize those sorts of joy-killing tasks. But then when you're left with what you've got, what you've decided is these are things that I have to do, looking at them, maybe looking at them a different way. Well, okay, so it feels like a pressure that you have to cook your children dinner, but what's the alternative? Then if they don't eat, then what happens? It's like, sometimes you need to think, sometimes it's helpful to think about why you're doing things, instead of, it's easy to get into that mindset, I've just got to do this, I've got to do that, and feeling resentful about it. But actually, when you think about the alternative, it's like, I've got to do the washing up. You could make it a terrible pressure that you've got to do it every day, and you feel terrible if you don't do it. But, I'm saying if you decide that as a regular habit, for the most part, you feel you need to do the washing up at the end of the day. I mean, it has to be done at some time, right? You might sort of think, well, I do actually, although I haven't necessarily up until now enjoyed doing the washing up, maybe I do enjoy the feeling of the sink being clear and clean at the end of the day. it kind of gives me a sense of peace. And again, I'm not saying this is what you should feel, because if you if you hate the washing, get a dishwasher or something, I don't know. There's not like one answer for every person, but it's about, once you're left with things that you've decided, these are tasks that need to be done from my perspective, you know, is there a way that you can reframe it so that it actually, you're not doing it out of this should energy, because when, you know, should energy is shitty energy, you know, it just is. But you can do it from a place of, well, actually, I like the feeling that I get from having done it. So maybe you can plug into that a little bit more. It's a bit like your why, like the Simon Sinek. You know, I'm sure when he came up with that big theme, he wasn't thinking about washing dishes, but, you know, it applies to everything, right? Know your why. And then, you know, suddenly it does feel a bit more motivating. So, you know, if you know, oh, actually, no, I do like the feeling of when my house is clean, you know, whether you're cleaning it yourself or you're getting someone else to do it, you know, maybe it changes it for you when you make it something that you're choosing to do rather than having to do it because you were programmed to do it. And that's the last thing I would say about, I feel like we've been in the freaking furrows of drudgery for a long time now. So let's get out of the furrows. But the last thing I would say about the furrows is that they sort of represent our past programming. And that's why, you know, and that's why we get all shitty about it, because actually a lot of the time we're just rebelling against what we were told we should do by our parents. Do the dishes, you know, tidy your room. It's like, and part of me thinks, so again, it's just actually, instead of just going, you know, into that automatic pilot of just rebelling against the voice of the past, you know, think about how, you know, do you really want to do this? You know, maybe, you know, if you look at it, maybe, well, actually, no, I want to do it for myself. I'm not doing it just because my parents nagged me about it for 10 years. So yeah, so again, reframing it, but also making it, you know, making those tasks, you know, something you're choosing to do, because that's so much more empowering. Choice, you know, that's a much more joyful energy, because you're doing it from a place of alignment. You're doing it because you're actually saying, no, this actually is something I want. You know, ultimately, I might not feel like doing it every second, but actually, ultimately, no, I do like this being done in my life. So that's to minimize them, but also choose, you know, switch from that should energy, which is all connected to your past. It's all connected to being bossed about by your parents and your teachers and everyone else and your programming, right? So that's how you create more joy, by minimizing this drudgery energy, this should energy. But, you know, if we also look at the mountains behind the furrows, so what do they represent, you know, in terms of this joy killing thing? Because I've been so aware of this, and believe me, I've been doing this for a few months now. So I know I'm intimately acquainted with this. So the mountains represent, again, like I said before, that reaching a really high stage. You know, it's a, you know, a stage of excellence. You know, someone who's been practicing their craft for many years and has achieved a level. Well, does he look like he's about to scale a mountain is my question. I mean, look, his hat. Look at the hat. I mean, he could he could hang himself, like if he fell on a rock or something and it got caught. It just like, he's not dressed to scale a mountain. So what am I saying here? I'm not saying don't have ambitions, because those can be inspiring. But notice when you're getting from that inspiring energy to this kind of, the shoulds, but instead of the shoulds of the past, we're now looking at the shoulds of the future. I should have, and I know a lot of young people experience it, and it sort of breaks my heart, because I feel like there's so much pressure on people, especially the younger generation. I mean, I'm not on social media because it does my freaking head in. But like, you're seeing these things all the time, you know, all of these, you know, the best bits of everybody. They're all showing you their fancy holidays and nice outfits and beach bods and six packs and there's just, and you know, it's so easy to be sold this idea that you should have achieved so much. I should be 10 pounds slimmer, lighter than I am now. I should have a 6-figure business by now. You know, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should live here, I should be dating this person or married or have children or whatever it is, you know. So those, you know, in terms of joy killing, the mountains represent trying to jump ahead too far, you know, thinking that you should have done more than you've achieved. And actually, the message of this card is like, if you want to live a life of joy, but not just joy, not like some Peter Pan experience where you're like disconnected from reality, but one where you just squeeze the joy out of life and you just, you know, you have fun living your life. You're not only just aiming for the mountains, which can be inspiring, but you're enjoying the journey of getting there. You know, it's to not try and jump ahead too many stages. Now, I've made that mistake with the YouTube channel as well. Again, look at the person with 1.2 million views and see what they're doing. And it's like, Esme, that's not going to work for you. You've been doing this a few months, you know, that person's been at it for years, potentially, most likely. And it's just like, you're just draining the fun out of life. You know, if you're trying to be someone you're not, you're trying to be someone else. And even the people that, you know, that, and this isn't me criticizing anyone, because I have no need to do that. But, you know, even the successful people are often presenting an image to you. They're not showing you all of the dark side of success, you know. And you know, that's what I'm all about. This channel it's not just about being successful, it's being authentically successful, you know. It's actually doing something that really matters to you, and it's following your path, your soul's journey, your heart, whatever term you want to use, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so jumping ahead is gonna like kill your joy quicker than anything. So basically that's kind of the message. So the main message of this card is to accept where you are, you know, accept the stage where you're at. If you want to live a life of joy, and if you want to be able to keep that creative flow happening, what happens? You don't stay in this phase, you know. Don't think that I'm trying to just tell you, oh, just be a page for the rest of your life. But, you know, how do you think you get to the mountains? It takes preparation, but it takes inspiration. You know, like I've said in previous videos, inspiration is so much more powerful than motivation. Motivation is like the drudgery. It's like forcing and efforting, or running into the mountains before you're ready, which can, you know, you'll end up getting stranded and needing to be rescued. So it's about just accepting where you are, enjoying, allowing the momentum to build of that creative energy, and then learning to follow that energy, because that energy will take you into the mountains. It will take you into the adventure that your soul and your heart is actually calling for. So yeah, so that's my message for today. I'm really hoping this message has recorded, because I'm not like using my phone and a new app and stuff, and like just, technology. Drudgery, furrows of drudgery. Yeah, anyway, so that's the message. If you found it helpful, then please like it. I just realised as I said that maybe I should take my own advice and like my video. Equally, yeah, if you know anyone who's going through this, and I think so many people are, you know, they're either kind of bogged down in all the shoulds of the now, they're just trying to keep up with all of the tasks, or they're just beating themselves up because they're not 10 paces ahead. If you know anyone else who could use this message right now, and share it with them, not for me, for them. And yeah, and if you want to hear more sort of profoundly silly thoughts, gosh, it's hard to say that fast when you've had a large glass of wine, then please subscribe to my channel. But if you don't, you know, I wish you all the best, and, you know, I hope that this message has helped you, and I will see you on the other side.